Hey kids, it's Thursday night, August 13th, the year of our Lord 2026. Are you ready to Lucky Low?
You're listening to Late Night Radio on the SHR Media Network. Caution, there will be mature themes explored and potentially adult language used. If conservatarian words, phrases, certain concepts, or rhetoric offends you, tune out now.
I have come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubble.
Hey kids, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girlish, children of all ages, welcome to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, where I am broadcasting from Nof, Idaho, in an actual free state. I happen to be this guy. I am your conservative Sherpa, and I am guiding you, as I am wont to do, through the insidious maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, globalist, anarchist lies, chaos, bedlam, deceit, and betrayal. Not necessarily all at once, although almost simultaneously, or words to that effect, Senator. And so, please note that for the next 2 hours, what you're going to hear consists of my opinion and my opinion only. Oh, wait, that's a lie. A lie. Because I have two great co-hosts tonight. Rowdy Ricky Robinson playing left field, and also Amy Curtis, shortstop. And thanks to everybody for tuning in here tonight. I am doing the job the American media maggots won't. I am fundamentally changing America one leftist diaper at a time. We don't water our drinks, just like we don't water our conversations. Look, vodka right here. I am fundamentally changing America one leftist diaper at a time. We're still serving, by the way, those, jeez, too much gain, sir. Stiff drinks in the saloon, along with facts and history and logic and clarity and rationality and proportion and context and tradition and common sense for normal people. Right here in the saloon, we talk about politics, religion, crime, culture, and economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all right here at the saloon, where the speech is free, but the booze is not. I am streaming on a whole bunch of different places right now, on Rumble and X and Twitch and KLRN and Facebook and the SHR Media YouTube channel. I don't know why I stream to Twitch, because I don't go there. I don't watch there, but those were lengthy attorney decisions made way prior to my installation into this chair, which is specifically voluminous and appropriately bulbous in order to contain my Mark I, Model I buttulus. You know, and people would come up to me and say, by the way, does your fat ass make your ass look fat? To which I'd reply, well, of course. Thank you so kindly. So, everyone, did you get it?
Apparently, I have a giant moth in my studio.
I was just going to say, I saw you swing.
I wondered what that was.
A swing and a miss.
I wondered what you were looking at.
It's like Mothra coming in my room, my studio. I don't know how I got in here.
Ghosts.
I used to love the little Japanese chicks that would sing for Mothra. And
the Japanese are awesome.
Mothra will come in. And also Gojira. One of my favorites. So, thanks to the two of you. It's sort of a precursor for tomorrow. So if I could, just for those people that don't listen regularly, and why you don't, I'm so sad. Anyway, Rick Robinson, introduce yourself, if you would, briefly, and then we'll go down to the lovely lady down below, please.
Ladies first, Amy.
Amy.
Hi. All right.
That's
I'm
what
Amy
I
Curtis.
Say.
I'm Amy Curtis. You can find me on Twitter at Ranty Amy Curtis. Right there in the bio. That was my youngest who poked his head in here because he has the memory span of a goldfish, and I told him not to come in because I was going to be online. I'm glad to be here this evening. It has been a week. I can't believe it is only Thursday. We had the primaries here in Wisconsin. That was insane. And now we focus on the general election, which is going to be even crazier.
And as we spoke, when I invited you here, I said, hey, we do have some things to talk about in terms of where you are. You are in Wisconsin. Great cheese, strange people, but that's, that's right now. By the way, folks.
Good beer, too.
Oh, yes. Tonight's shirt is warning, no airbags. We die like real men, by God. And Rick Robinson, what about you, sir?
You can find me on X at RowdyRick73. I am the general manager of both KLRradio.com and Digital Beacon US News, and I have a plethora of content. Just feel free to go visit KLRradio.com and check out our schedule, because I'm probably involved in it in one form or another. There, that's the briefest one I can give you for now.
Excellente. Okay, let's see. Now, last Tuesday, this stuff wouldn't work. And now I'm looking, oh, it's working. My overlays, the graphics that I had, like that and like that. Oh, by the way, if you're interested, jump into my plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room. Go to the SHR Media YouTube channel, and where it says Chatibus Erectibus, you can yoomp right in. Wow, this is great. Now, for whatever reason, the stuff that didn't work Tuesday night works now. Anyway, the story is a continuation of Tuesday night. What price freedom? And as you can see, we have Rick Robinson and Amy Curtis. And I wanted to have them there because they have a wide range of experience. Rick has been in radio for quite some time. We were just talking about that before the show. Amy writes for townhall.com and is a prodigious writer of numerous articles. And so they are both well schooled in, where do we go from here? How can we go from here? Our freedom is being challenged on a regular basis. And I have a ton of stories to go over tonight, the likes of which, clearly, as with every show, I won't get to but a fraction of them. But I want to start out with something that is, I guess you could call this a happy story, although I'm not necessarily so sure how long this will remain. There's a place called the Silencer Shop, and it recently completed its first lawful unregistered suppressor transfer since June 20th of 1934.
Oh, wow.
Before the NFA, the National Firearms Act, was instituted. Mm-hmm. And this is what happened.
And these are the second two. Let's go. Appreciate that.
So that, as far as I'm concerned, is a happy story. Next installation of the leftists, I'm sure they will remove that, and they have already quantified that as there will be nothing but shootings and pillaging as a result of the silent suppressors. Although if you've ever fired one, kids, they're not that quiet. All they do essentially is lower the dBs, but guess what? You can still hear them, which is kind of a strange thing. Let me go to this, and I want to get, I'm basically going to present a bunch of different stories for tonight that have to do with how our freedom is affected. And the first one, I honestly, I didn't see this coming. And that's, now this is according to NBC News, and they're saying, well, we have hints, information. People are saying to us, apparently sub rosa, it looks like Luigi Mangione is expected to plead guilty in that federal case where he murdered in very cold blood, walking up behind the guy and shooting him in the head on New York streets of a healthcare company. And of course, that was retribution for the healthcare rates being so high, et cetera, et cetera. I didn't see this coming at all. What I did see coming that I thought was coming and now apparently not is someone, or did I, correct me if I'm wrong, did I get this case wrong? There was a challenge in the court where they wanted to have the trial live, and then a judge was considering that, and I suspected that the only reason that they wanted to go live was to make sure that they get at least jurists' faces on TV so that they could go back and dox them. Do I have the appropriate trial for that? I think it's this one.
Yeah.
I know they were wanting cameras in the one for Charlie Kirk's killer. I don't remember on this one.
Okay.
I don't
Maybe I
remember
got
on
that
this
confused.
one. I don't remember on this one, but I know I've watched several trials live streamed. I loved it. Probably the most, for lack of a better word, notorious one was Darrell Brooks here in Waukesha. He was the guy who ran the sovereign citizen who ran through the Waukesha Christmas parade in 2022 and killed 7 or 8 people. One of them was an 8-year-old boy, and the rest were part of the Dancing Grannies troupe. I don't remember them showing the jury during that trial, and that was a very, very dramatic one, given the nature of the crime and the fact he chose to represent himself, and pretty much every day was a 3-ring circus.
Well, and that harkens back to Judge Ito's courtroom.
Mm-hmm.
That was a travesty. That was a kabuki theater of the absurd.
I vaguely remember that. The one thing I remember about that for sure was they played the verdict over the PA system in middle school. Like they stopped.
Really?
They stopped classes. I was in band. They stopped classes. They broadcast the verdict over the, like, that's how big of a moment that shit show was, because he should have been found guilty. They played it over our whatchamacallit. But would it surprise me if they wanted to get visuals on the jury and dox them and harass them? For the Luigi Mangione case, no. There are going to be a lot of very, very disappointed socialists out there who are going to watch their hero go to prison for the rest of his life.
Well, particularly these days, I cannot imagine any other reason why people would push to have jurors' faces or courtrooms open so that the faces could be seen, depending on whether or not they release the names of the jurors. That's really the only reason that I can suspect that somebody would do that.
I did, in fact, find out that it was actually his attorneys that were pushing to have the trial live streamed.
There you go.
According to Fox 5 New York, attorney Karen Friedman and Angelifo argued that a live stream and broader press access were necessary to protect Mangione's Sixth Amendment rights to a public trial. The defense objected to limits on courtroom seating and to the restricted pool of reporters permitted to cover jury selection. And it was the Manhattan DA that opposed it, and the judge eventually said no.
Okay, so this was the murder of Brian
Thompson. Brian Thompson. He was the CEO for United Healthcare.
He
had a wife, 2 teenage boys. Mangione shot him in the back on the New York street because sometimes United Healthcare denies claims. Well, the biggest denier of claims is Medicare. So it will be very interesting to see what these nitwits do if the Democrats get their way and force Medicare for all on us, where everybody will have their claims denied, and we will all be paying at least a 32% payroll tax, plus double our income tax, our federal income tax rates, because of just how expensive this will be.
Oh, they'll get the cost down when they roll out America's version of MAID.
Oh, right. And that you and I, people like you and I, will be the first in line for that, because they already wanted to deny us healthcare during COVID. So our names will go on a list somewhere, and we will not get cancer treatment. We will not get OB care. We will be shoved to the side. because healthcare really is not a right, and they're going to prove it.
Well, I'll be the first to be culled. So thank you. Stop your applause right now. Who was it? Rahm Emanuel's brother, whose first name I cannot recall, said that essentially all people are useless after the age of 70. Well, that's far me. I'll be the first to go. Canada is in the middle of that. But go back to Luigi. Why it's said that he's expected to plead guilty tomorrow to the federal charges. So what's up with that? Why is the guilty plea an attempt to make a clear martyr out of this guy? I mean, he's as much a martyr as the left can make at this point. So the tactic behind pleading guilty allegedly tomorrow, I'm not grokking that concept just quite yet.
I think, much in the way police body cams backfired on the left, this is a effort to hide what would come out in trial about this guy, hide some of his radical views, hide.
Okay. Meanwhile, as back at the ranch, as Amy locked up, is it suspected that he has weird stuff and skeletons in his closet that apparently we're not aware of yet?
It's completely possible. Am I back? I apologize. It's raining here, so AT&T gets a little spotty when it rains because AT&T is not good. I think it's possible. And more than likely, if nothing else, I have to look, and I didn't think to look before I started. Did he have a manifesto too? I know he had written something like on the bullet casings, but did he actually have like a documented manifesto?
I wish I could tell you, but my small brainulus doesn't have that capacity at this point. But
all right, and just in the interest of not stressing my internet, I'm not going to open another window and browse. I'm just going to keep. I am trying to go as minimum as possible here so that things don't log up again. But a lot of stuff is going to come out in the trial, and the prosecution is going to lay a lot of his motive out for the public to see. And I think the defense wants to protect that a lot.
If this is an attempt to forestall some kind of exposure, then let me throw this out there. Will it be that, okay, if another BZF then equation, if it turns out that tomorrow he does in fact plead guilty, and then it moves over to the sentencing phase, and then sentencing, who the hell knows what's going to happen on that? At least we didn't have to encounter any jury nullification in that aspect. But the potentiality, now that I hear this, is how long is this guy going to remain viable? It seems to me that if he goes this route, he's going to be getting exactly what he doesn't want. He'll fall off the screen in a period of time, and he won't be significant anymore. And I just get the crazy feeling that ain't anything like what he truly wants. So I'm confused about this.
I think his sycophants and the people that are protesting in support of him outside the courthouses will keep him alive. I definitely don't envy the job the prison mailroom is going to have, dealing with all the letters.
He's gonna have a line. He's gonna have like a waiting list for conjugal visits.
He honestly and truly, he is going to get marriage proposals. These women are going to, and some men, not that there's anything wrong with that, are just going to line up around the block to do something with this guy because they idolize him. He is their hero. He is their saint because he killed a man. And he killed a man because they didn't like the job that man had. A perfectly legal job that hundreds of, I don't know how many insurance companies there are in the country, but hundreds of people do every single day. And because they didn't like it, he deserved to be executed in the middle of the street. That's a scary, very scary thought.
Well, I mean, it's playing out all over the place right now. Okay, so I do want to back up to a couple of different questions. First of all, the one who basically said people are useless after 75, that was his brother Ezekiel. who is now 68 and is suddenly changing his tune about that now that 75.
Did he really?
Yeah, he keeps pushing that age up now because he's getting close to that cutoff mark, and he's like, yeah, maybe I was. Yeah, and Mangione does not have a manifesto in the classic sense, but they did find a 262-word letter that said, "Hey, feds," and then they found a notebook with sketches and plans and a couple of things in there that the prosecution intended to use. So no real manifesto to speak of, though. Not as far as the media version of a manifesto.
Harshly worded with potential sarcasm, then? The sarcasm quotient?
Yeah. I mean, you know, I still can't believe how much this guy is being worshipped. It astounds me that somebody could just gun somebody down in the middle of the street. I mean, I get it. You know, we used to, and I think part of it might be the television culture and everything, because we have idolized those kind of things on TV. Like when the story of Bonnie and Clyde came out, how many people were fantasizing about being Bonnie and Clyde, even though they died at the end? Because I know there were a lot of people that was awesome. Like when Thelma and Louise drove off the cliff, everybody was like, "Oh, that's cool." What? No. I'm like, that's not my definition of cool. But yeah, I am just as confused and conflicted. I have a feeling his attorneys are afraid that if he doesn't take the deal at the federal level, the state's going to chew him up and spit him out. Is kind of what I think is about to happen.
And that's a very real possibility, which, given that it's New York and Manhattan, kind of surprises me because they don't actually have the best track record of putting actual criminals behind bars. You defend yourself, you're going to end up in trouble, Daniel Penny. But when you're an actual criminal, especially a high-profile one who commits a crime that's, for lack of a better term, politically correct, kind of surprised that the state would be that tough on them. But maybe they don't have a choice. Maybe we haven't crossed that Rubicon yet of where the prosecutors can go, yeah, it's okay to kill your political enemies, because that's where we're at these days. We have to resist Trump and we have to resist these capitalist pigs, blah, 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 blah. But we will see.
I am really kind of surprised that nobody has just come out and flat out said all capitalist pigs must die yet.
Hassan Piker did that.
Oh, Hassan Piker. Oh,
well, I meant associated with the trial, not this idiot.
Oh, well, true, but I'm sure Hassan Piker will weigh in on this one.
Oh, I'm sure, but
I find it just weird. Before I start the show, pizza. Before I start the show, I go through the news, and I found that story just before we came here, and it's still befuddling to me because it seems as though his entire raison d'etre, his reason for existing, was to illustrate that he is a willing martyr for the cause, and this has the potential to eliminate his face from memory. Except for certain wackadoodle leftist white chicks. So that tells me that whatever it is, whatever potentiality exists hanging over his head has to be damn significant.
Probably right.
I mean, the thing about it is, so here's the thing, and this is, I'm not going into my background again. It's not as flashy as BZ's, but we had kind of the same path in the beginning. I'll just say that.
Yes, we did.
One of the things that drove me nuts is the judge saying, well, the most of the contents of the bag are inadmissible because you didn't have permission to search the bag. Hello, it was during an arrest?
Yeah.
In New York City, or I don't know if he was. I don't remember if he was arrested in New York City, but I'm pretty sure. And every state and every locality has, bag protocols now of making sure shit in there that ain't ticking. I'm just saying.
Right.
So,
and making sure they don't have weapons or needles or anything that could harm, or explosives that could harm the police. So,
well, so before 9/11, it was different. If it was a bag and it wasn't on their person, it was kind of a pain to get it searched. You could separate them from it to make sure they couldn't get to it, but you couldn't actually search it. But after 9/11, all that changed because nobody knew if there was bombs, hand grenades, whatever. Honestly, when I used to pat people down, that was one of the ways I used to break the tension, especially if I felt like they were just about to try to rabbit. I'd start, patting them down and be like, is there anything I need to worry about on your person, such as knives, needles, sharp things, hand grenades, bazookas. And they usually just kind of chuckle. It kind of became not funny after 9/11.
Right.
The logical progression for that is consensual encounters, and then reasonable suspicion, and then probable cause, and then you can search incident to arrest if that's applicable. But just going back, you made me remember a phrase that since then has become widely recalcitrant, which is fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine. Have we not met that standard in terms of Trump and the FISA courts? And yet very few, if any, people addressed the fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine. I just, again, that's part and parcel of what we're talking about tonight, folks, is, what about freedom? Where does freedom come into this? What's the price that we potentially are going to have to pay someday for freedom? And where is it that we're going? I want to go into.
Can I depress everybody real quick?
Oh, sure, please. Why not? We're halfway there.
We're not free anymore.
Oh no.
You can't even fish without a permit. We're not free anymore.
In various counties, at least now I can speak for Califailure, that it's illegal to collect rainwater in some counties. I don't know what it is for, say, Wisconsin or for Oklahoma, but for California, there are a specific list of counties where it is illegal to do that. And it's just insane. Speaking of water, which is weird, here's another story. It used to be that farmers were free to farm, but it appears, however, that California farmers are starting to put up signs. I saw this when I went back to California to get our 2 rescue dogs in 2024. I'll never go back to Califailure. But they're putting up signs saying that Gavin Newsom is dumping about 80% of their water into the Pacific Ocean. And I'm going to play a little video cut before that. But this also goes back to, and people say, oh, this is not true. Yes, it is. Newsom did this for 5 bait fish called the Delta smelt in the California Delta. And Fish and Game, they were tasked with counting officially the number of these bait fish so that they could make some kind of a determination as to how they were going to be saved. Well, as it turns out, just as with the farmers, literally trillions of gallons of fresh water were pissed away into the ocean via the Delta in order to save a bait fish called the Delta smelt. I want to play this video, and then we're going to take a break after that.
And what's exacerbating the situation is this. Sign after sign, all lining busy highways and interstates, claiming nearly 80% of California's total river water flows are being sent to the Pacific Ocean instead of farms. Claims that California freshman Assemblyman David Tangapal says are absolutely true.
It's 100% happening. That actually in the state of California, almost 83% of all water in the state of California is automatically pushed down for environmental purposes. 83% is pretty much how they block in the legislation.
And for Tangapal, the core of the issue can be tied to what he calls bad legislation.
So we have an average of about 200 million acre feet of water fall in the state of California.
Okay, we're pushing a break. I want to go away from that. But freedom for humans is sacrificed behind bait fish. The leftists and the enviro-leftards have had their way for years in Califailure. They have completely ruined our forests, ruined our water, ruined our infrastructure, and people kept voting for all of those things. And that affects directly our freedoms. Plus, in addition, Califailure was one of the first sanctuary states, and they consistently invited illegal invaders into the state, a state by which has little, if any, infrastructure left to spare, electrical capacity to spare, water to spare, buildings to spare, and the people that are coming into California are not skilled labor at a time when AI is removing jobs and people who are minimum wage workers are being replaced. That makes no sense to me, about 0 cents. So tonight, folks, I'm BZ, that's Rick Robinson and Amy Curtis, and we're going to be back after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
In a world where leftists are running out of metal for the safety pins of their soothing red diapers, one man stands alone, attempting to fundamentally change America, one leftist diaper at a time. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, is guiding you through the maelstrom of Democrat leftists and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Listen to BZ Saloon on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Central, and 11 p.m. Eastern on the SHR Media YouTube channel, Twitch, KLRN, Rumble, and X at BZ Saloon. It's one great late-night conservatarian talk radio show. Be there. Aloha.
Hello, friends. You have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name is Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRN Radio.
It's Sean from the Edge of Liberty. Just like the Bidens, I too am moving. Only in my case, it's days and times. That's right. You can now find the Edge of Liberty Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 Eastern, and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on 11 Eastern on the SHR Media Network. Join me as we talk politics, news, alcohol, fun, not so much fun, clowns, small kittens, large kittens, dogs, amoebas, and anything else that just pops into my mind while I'm on the air. That is Monday and Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast, on YouTube, X, KLRN Radio, Facebook, Twitch, and anywhere else a good podcast is found. Please check out our website, shrmedia.com. I will see you live on the air.
Attention, all patriotic women of faith. Yep, I'm talking to you, sis. Are you looking for high-quality, super soft apparel that reflects your love for country and your devotion to God? Look no further than Carry Girl Gear. Picture this. You rocking a tee so soft it's like being hugged by a cloud, all while showing off your love for God and country. Sounds dreamy, right? Well, welcome to reality, babes, because that's what we're all about here at Carry Girl Gear. We specialize in super soft tees, tanks, and more, designed specifically for the strong, patriotic woman who proudly wants to carry their message of faith and freedom. When you shop with us, you're not just getting a t-shirt. You're joining a community of like-minded women who are proud to wear their beliefs straight on their tees. So whether you're sipping sweet tea on the porch or leading the charge for faith and freedom, do it in a Carry Girl tee. Because life's too short for stiff, boring tees. CarryGirl.com, where faith and freedom meets fashion.
Independence. With that declaration, America was born. Inspired by a belief in the God-given rights of every human being, and in the good that comes from exercising these rights well. The founders of our great nation chose independence. As do we. Hillsdale College accepts no government funding because independence makes possible the good to which we aspire.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome Thursday night to everybody, all you cool cats and kittens. It is August the 13th, the year of our Lord 2026. It is I, BZ, along with the illustrious Amy Curtis, the wondrous Rowdy Rick Robinson, and we are talking tonight and addressing very critical and important issues and maybe making some kind of, I don't know, we may throw some sarcasm out now and then. And
Sarcasm? Nah.
Sarcasm? No.
Sarcasm, never.
No, as in sarcasm or us. I'm stopping with sarcasm right now. I talked about this Tuesday night, and I definitely want the input of you guys. I'm not going to play you know what? I will play the video. When I saw this and heard this, torqued me like I hadn't been torqued in quite some time in terms of President Trump, Rick, correct me if I'm wrong, said, "Oh, we're not worried about missiles from Iran." That was a bit of a torquish issue. And then Besant, the Treasury Secretary, recently said, "Oh, the Strait of Hormuz is not necessarily any more relevant after the Trump admin tried everything that they possibly could to open it, and they failed." And now he's saying, or there are machinations or words to that effect, Senator, that, well, maybe the nuclear issue isn't as important as it truly was. So, Mr. Besant, go.
We've speculated the Strait will never go back to being the way it was before. What would you say?
I would take, I think they're saying that in a doomsday sort of way. I would say it in another way. The Strait is never going back to the way it was because the Iranians have used or tried to use it as a choke point. What we are going to see over the next 2 years, the Strait's going to become irrelevant. It is going to become just another body of water. And I would say that more than...
Okay, stop. Is that just whistling past the graveyard?
I mean, at this point, I am so fed up with all of this. And you got to remember, I was the guy, because when he first started talking about making a deal, I was the guy who had a show ready to go explaining, I'm not going to go through all of it again because I've done it on this show, but about, basically we rebuilt the world's economy after World War II. We've been the ones propping it up. We intertwined everything. And that's why we always fight with one hand behind our back anymore. More specifically, one finger on the trigger, the other on the scales, holding the world together. So I knew this was coming, but when the day, so I'm all prepped and ready to go. And 5 minutes before I'm hitting the live button, he's like, "Oh, well, their neighbors have those kind of missiles, so maybe they should have them too." And I'm like,
just for defensive purposes.
Yes, for these people aren't going to use them for defensive purposes. But yeah, this whole thing with the Strait is driving me insane because and this gets me in trouble with my side because I'm just looking at it and I'm going, you've been telling us for months they don't have a Navy, they can't do this anymore, they can't do that anymore, but every time I turn around, they are blowing ships out of the water in the Strait while we're watching them do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it made no sense. And I can distinctly recall that very same day, you and I, Rick, were very frustrated, and we weren't too terribly reticent about talking to ourselves about that, but this kind of looks like it's becoming the standard. Okay, it's open one day, it's not open another day, it's open here, and it got to the point where
you forgot the randomly closed for bombings between 12 and 2.
Right, exactly.
Like the Walgreens pharmacy lunch breaks. Yeah.
But it made you think, okay, well, what's the point then? And again, I'd like to throw this out for for you guys to look at it. Can you not look at what's been going on and think that in the back of someone's fetid, curled, knurled brain, they're thinking, well, maybe it's time to get out. That was one of my first reads on that. Or am I just nuts?
Oh no,
No,
He's trying- I mean, you have to remember, historically, the party in power, especially if they control all three branches, loses at least one of the branches of the House. Period. Full stop. It happens almost every single time. Well, at least in recent history. So he's been worried about that. But my problem with all of this is now he's got his no more new wars base pissed because they didn't explain well enough that this isn't a new war. This has been an ongoing war since 1979, and it's something that should have been dealt with in 1981 and just been done with it. But we couldn't do that back then because we were afraid if we actually did what we should have done, which is turn paradise into a parking lot and put up some strip malls, that Russia would follow suit, or the USSR at the time. So we weren't ready to do that yet. So when he finally said that he was ready to tackle it, he was going to do things that should have been done a long time ago, I was for it. But I don't feel like and now this is not Rubio's fault or Hexa's fault. They have done a really good job in a lot of ways. And
They've done yeoman's work, you bet.
Rubio has come a long way since the guy that, that got in trouble for drinking water years ago.
Yes.
Because he's been amazing. He's been amazing to watch. One aside before I continue, Mr. Rubio, in case you're listening, toaster strudel, way better than Pop-Tarts. You should try them sometime. Anyway, but no.
I saw your reference to that earlier.
So this whole thing is just like, finally somebody said, we're going to finally deal with something that should have been dealt with a long time ago. But they never got out in front of it well enough. For all the people that are like, I thought you said no wars. They should have just kept pounding the point home that this isn't a new war. These people have been attacking us randomly for years. If we want to get really technical, there was just as much involvement from Iran with 9/11 as there was anybody else involved in it, one way or the other. They've been funding terrorists around the world, and we know this. Nobody told me the war on terror was over. Did somebody call a timeout and didn't tell me? Why is Iran even allowed to function in the first place, since all of their money can be tied to terrorism?
Well, and we all know that that's where it went. That's where it goes. In the back of a C-17 in the dark of night, multiple pallets of cash. For what? I never understood that point. Plus, also, are the Republicans not some of the worst communicators in the history of history?
Yes.
They may indicate that, well, we want to do this. We're not going to tell you exactly why. We're not going to provide anything logical like a timetable. We're going to hold the cards ourselves, which in some intelligence cases, I get it. But if it's not a matter of intelligence and incredible secrets, at least give us the bare bones of an outline of what it is that you plan to do, would you please? It's extremely frustrating. And I go back to, yes, that has a great deal to do with our freedom, or perhaps the lack of our freedom. Amy, you disappeared for a second. I got the you were about to say something.
I am, but my allergies have decided now's a great time to act up. So every time I mute, I've been sneezing my brains out.
Oh, no.
Trump fundamentally does not understand the leadership of Iran. And in some ways, I get that because it's so abnormal and twisted the way they think, and it's all rooted in their belief that they have this religious theological obligation to bring about their version of the apocalypse, and that involves destroying Israel and America. They are zealots, for lack of a better word, and you can't negotiate with that. You can't reason with that. And Trump thinks this is just another business deal that he's dealing with, the guy down the street whose property he wants to buy. You're not. You are dealing with people that will kill you just as easily as look at you, and you need to respond with the only thing they understand, and that is brute, unbridled force. And this segment of the war, which has been going on since before I was born, was lost the day he told the Iranian people, stay in your homes, don't rise up. This could have been over if we had encouraged them to go in and overthrow the government. And I understand probably why he didn't want to do it, because in his mind, the optics of more Iranians, innocent Iranians getting gunned down by the guard would have been bad optics. But something like 40,000 of them have already been gunned down.
Yeah,
the optics are bad enough to begin with.
2 days in
Yeah,
February.
Right. Yeah, right. So that country should have been flattened. When he decided to pull the trigger and go in, it should have been turning it into that parking lot. And, let Joni Mitchell write a song about it, but that was the only way to end this. And now what we're going to do is this ongoing dance of the Strait of Hormuz is open, the Strait of Hormuz isn't. My big fear is eventually he's going to go, the Strait of Hormuz is kind of important to things like oil shipments and other products out of the Middle East, but largely oil and like the world's energy infrastructure. And we're going to have to set up a base there, and we're going to have to control the Strait of Hormuz, which puts our troops at risk, which gets us into another decades of this boots on the ground stuff that we didn't want to have. And you're right. The Republicans some of them are really, really bad on messaging and really bad with communicating to the voters. And it's very, very frustrating because you can see where they're making the mistakes, and you can put it on social media. You can put it on the podcast and hope that maybe somebody gets it. But explaining to people and spelling things out for people goes a long way in getting those people to support you and to be on your side when you talk to them like they are adults who understand things. But you also have to explain things. And that's one of the big faults Trump has, is he assumes everybody consumes the same media he does. So he talks about things assuming you know exactly what he's talking about because you've watched the same segment on whatever news station he watched or read whatever social media post he watched, and he doesn't articulate everything the way that he needs to. Even the objectives, like I understand them because I'm up to my eyeballs in this stuff. I know they wanted to stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. I agree with that objective. But if I would go and ask my mom, what's the objective on the Iran war? She wouldn't have a clue. Well, and she's not on social media, so there is a messaging problem there. And they can't say, it's because the media won't let us talk. You have the whole of the internet. He has millions of followers. Take 5 seconds, have Grok put a video together, put it on the internet, have it shared 60 million times. Like, there is a way to get the message out there that doesn't rely on Jake Tapper and Margaret Brennan and the rest of those assholes to tell the world your story and then filter it through their 6 layers to make you look like the bad guy.
Point of order, those are whole asses, man.
Jeez, oh pizza.
Touche.
The guy that was running for California governor, or excuse me, LA mayor.
Spencer Pratt.
Spencer Pratt. Whoever was doing his videos, if you just contacted that guy and gotten he or she, whoever it happens to be, to do some videos for President Trump, the messaging is terrible. It sucks. Mm-hmm. And the thing that is particularly frustrating for me is so many of the people on the left saying, see, we told you, no new wars. He doesn't know what he's doing. Rick makes the quintessential point in terms of it never stopped. It was ongoing. Who was Iran funding? They're a proxy for whom? Russia? China? Anyone and everyone that hates America? How many Americans have been killed by Iran? That never stopped. And we funded them. And the frustration is going to show itself in November. And of course, you can't go by the polls. People are weighing in on polls and saying all sorts of things. Well, we have it. We're going to win. Oh, no, we have it. We're going to win.
Take it from me. The big losers on Tuesday night were the pollsters. Because according to
they were wrong all over the place.
According to the pollsters and the betting markets, and I can't take credit for that. That was somebody else who pointed it out. But the pollsters and the betting market, Francesca Hong was supposed to win by 22 points. And I was at the Tom Tiffany watch party working for town hall and watching the returns. And when they first started coming in and Crowley was 5 points ahead of her, I texted my son and said, he's going to win. She ended up losing those if you go down to the 100th place, she ended up losing by 0.42% or 3,200, either was 79 or 76 votes, something like that. That the one total from, I use Decision Desk. I'm not sure which outlet you use, but less than 3,300 votes. And how did the pollsters get that so wrong?
And were there not issues? The other thing that I find difficult to understand is wasn't Crowley the guy that pulled out of the race?
Yes.
She was clearly going to win and kick ass.
Yes.
And then he decides, I don't know how or where.
Oh no, that wasn't. He didn't decide that. The party decided it for him.
The party decided that because what happened was he dropped out July 9th because the polls were showing he was at like 8-9%. He dropped out and endorsed Sarah Rodriguez, who was the current sitting lieutenant governor. About a week after, not even a week, I think he dropped out on the 9th. A few days later, Rodriguez had to fire her campaign manager because there were a whole boatload of things wrong with her campaign finance reports. The finance reports were due on the 15th. And that, I believe, was a Wednesday, 15th of July, and that was a Wednesday. So that Monday, she fired her campaign manager. Wednesday, the financial reports were due. Friday, she ended her campaign. And the Democrats were like, shit, what are we going to do? Because we're stuck with this crazy lady. Then they asked Crowley, and there is, that I have to look at that picture. I just had a brain, like this light bulb moment. But anyway, they asked Crowley to come back and promised him endorsement of sitting Governor Tony Evers, who refused to endorse his current sitting governor, or lieutenant governor, excuse me, and Mandela Barnes, who was his previous lieutenant governor for his first administration, his first term. There's definitely some infighting there. And the moment I had was the morning after the election. The Democrats all got together and had a unity breakfast. I have to go back and look at the picture. I'm not going to pull it up because my Wi-Fi, knock on wood, seems to be okay. I don't think Mandela Barnes was at that breakfast, which does not surprise me. Do I think he's going to come out in favor of Tom Tiffany? Hell no. But he's got to be just beside himself and angry right now because he really got thrown under the bus for David Crowley, who in the last 48 hours has now made himself all but indistinguishable from Francesca Hong. He supports defunding the police. He said in an interview, his ideas are not that different from hers. The only thing he's different on is that he supports AI data centers, and Tom Tiffany, and it's the one issue I disagree with Tom Tiffany on, is not a fan of AI data centers. So I see a lot of people on my side. Oh, well, Crowley's going to win and the Democrats are going to flip the legislature and we're going to have Democrat rule in this state. I don't think that's a foregone conclusion. If Tom Tiffany can keep hitting him on his failures here in Milwaukee County, and there are many of them, and tie him to Francesca Hong, who he's going to campaign with, Tom Tiffany still has a very, very good shot to win the governor's race.
Let me throw this into the mix also. And this is one of the reasons that I wanted to have you here tonight, Amy. I remember reading before beginning the show, and like I say, I scan various news stories before I come on to see if I've missed anything. But in the process of scanning a couple of news stories, I heard something, and I did not get all the info out of it. But what stuck to my brain was there was some kind of an issue involving thumb drives, what was on the thumb drives, and the information there with regard to that somehow influenced Hong in a negative fashion, and all the Democrats and the DSA members are super pissed because of this. And I just have not yet made that connection in a series of articles. So what am I missing?
So the night of the election, the city of Milwaukee, the Milwaukee Election Commission, they take the absentee ballots, they tabulate them, then they take the totals, put them on thumb drives, which I don't think is safe in any way, shape, or form. And then they take them to be counted where they're counting the rest of the ballots. The absentee ballots are held in a separate place. State law says they cannot be counted until an opener counted until election night, which I don't believe that's true. And I'll get to that in a second. I put a picture in the private chat. AJ Bayapur, and I'm going to butcher that name and I apologize. He's a local reporter who's been kind of digging into this. If you look at that screen, what they did in Milwaukee, instead of clicking on the vote totals, they clicked on the audit logs. If you look at this picture, and I can't circle it because I can't control it, but if you look at the top above the orange circle in sort of the dark blue thing, it says export
audit log, right?
There is no way this was human error. Unless the Milwaukee Election Commission hires a bunch of people who can't fucking read, this was not an error. And
I was gonna go to work, but then I got high.
well, that's also a very, very strong possibility. And I'm only like half tongue in cheek because I work for local government.
Possible.
I worked for local government. They're not sending their best and brightest. So after they got to the election site and realized they don't have the vote totals, they had to go back, do this process again, and then bring them over there, which this is the only time in my life I'm probably going to say this, so mark your calendars. I agree with the DSA. This is fishy as hell. And it's the same pattern. If you go back and look through previous elections, Milwaukee always waits until last. And then somehow they manage to find enough votes to offset the Republican counties in the state.
Okay.
So if the Republican counties, and I'm specifically Waukesha, and I'm mad at Waukesha, and I'll get to that in a second, Waukesha, Washington, and Ozaukee, the WOW counties, were smart, in November, they would not release their totals until Milwaukee had fully reported. And if that means we have to wait until 4 a.m. to get the totals, fine. We wait until 4 a.m. to get the totals. But you let Milwaukee bring those numbers in first, because I guarantee you the outcome of the election will be vastly different if we do it that way. But
okay, so if that potentially diminished and the DSA has any kind of a complaint about that, and it clearly went against Hong by just a winky margin, but who would be motivated in particular to do that? Because it's clear Republicans can't even message, and I bet they do technology even worse.
The Democrats did that because the Democrats didn't want Hong to win the primary, in part because they know she was going to lose the general, but I think they were also more afraid that what are we going to do if this crazy bitch wins? Because every single one of her policies would have destroyed. Her policy was 17.7% income tax rate in the state, which would make us more taxed than California. Wait, and I'm going to tell you right now, Indiana's tax rate is 2.95%. Right now, I think ours is about 9%. So we are still highly taxed. There are only 7 millionaires in the state of Wisconsin. Hong came in, they'd all be gone. She would push to end the school choice program. She would push to defund the police. She would push to abolish prisons. The problem now, and this is a gift wrapped in a bow for Tom Tiffany, is that David Crowley comes out and doesn't even pretend to be a moderate now. Nope, I agree with Francesca Hong and everything. We need to have a conversation about defunding the police and abolishing prisons. I'm going to campaign with Francesca Hong. My theory, because Hong conceded about 3 a.m. on Wednesday morning, she was offered something, a role, and probably a healthy one, in a possible Crowley administration. That is the only thing that would have gotten her to not fight for this. But I also think, because she underperformed in Dane County, she won the county, but she was far below what I expected her to do. For those of you that don't know Dane County, think of the bluest city in the state of in the United States of America, and then make it even bluer. It is, Madison is as far left as you can get.
Wait, yeah, you said Madison was terrible, and this is worse?
Madison is terrible. No, Madison is the seat of Dane County.
Oh, okay. All right.
So she lost that. You know what I think actually did it for her, and I think she knew this, was that shooting on July 22nd, the Corey Ruiz shooting, where she got out there and the body wasn't even cold and said this was an execution, which led to a 2-week encampment that blocked off Baldwin and Williamson streets. So the residents that live there couldn't get to work. The businesses couldn't open. Police and fire were not allowed to respond there. So if your house burned down, you had a heart attack, somebody tried to rob you, you were SOL for 2 weeks. Hong came out and said, yeah, we need to end this autonomous zone and find a better way to express our grief over the loss of this career killer with 42 prior arrests who pulled a knife on cops. The mayor...
And then she excoriated that decision. Did she not?
The mayor said the same thing, and then the mayor sent the police in to clean things up, and that went about as well as you'd think it would. They started fires, they threw rocks, people were arrested and pepper sprayed, hauled off because I think like 30 people were arrested. Hong came out, and any political goodwill she got from that, she blew it out of the water by saying the police should not have done this. This was unfair. We need accountability for the police. Every mistake she could have possibly made, she made it. But then again, there was also a lot of split in the conservative circles here about, do we cross out? Because we don't have to register as a party in Wisconsin, but for the primaries, you are allowed to vote a straight ticket. So if I would have gone in and voted for Tom Tiffany, I could not have voted for any of the Democrats. You have to vote one party, which is, I think it's stupid. I think you should be able to vote in either party but that's the way we do it here. I crossed over and voted for Hong on Tuesday because I wanted to get her across the finish line.
I saw you said that.
And it didn't work. And I understand why some of the conservatives didn't. They were afraid she was going to win, and they were afraid she was going to win the general. And in that case, we would really have with blood on our hands, for lack of a better term, because we helped elect the socialist. But Waukesha, which is a deep red county, overwhelmingly went for Crowley. And that is going to make the fight for Tom Tiffany in the general not impossible, but harder. But like I said earlier, the battle is going to be hit Crowley on his record here in Milwaukee County, crime, budget deficit. Black kids at MPS perform at the bottom of the nation nationally on testing. There are many things to hit him on, and they just have to be smart about it.
It's funny you mentioned students and schools. I'm going to take a break, folks. We're going to come right back. That's Rick Robinson, Amy Curtis. I have a story and a tale to regale and a video, and it completely destroyed a teacher, and it destroyed me having to watch this guy. Well, you'll understand when we come back. I'm BZ, and we will be back with a video. If this doesn't hit your heartstrings, I don't know what does. Come right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Listen in to the Reaver of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a show equipped for bombast. Tune in Mondays and Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, and 6 p.m. Pacific, featuring a refreshing dose of reality. Jersey Joe fearlessly tackles the tough topics with no nonsense. Just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com, where you can hear the Reaver of Common Sense in action. He may not always be polite. He may not always be refined. But one thing's for sure. He always tells it like it is.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? Then check out Seven Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with Seven Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com. 7armors.com. Faithful, vigilant, steadfast, passion.
Are you looking for bold and honest conversation about the issues shaping America? Well, let me welcome you to Unleashed 101 with Jeremy Hansen, where we take you beyond the headlines. We dive into politics and culture, struggles of everyday life. It's raw, real, and unfiltered. If you're ready for truth with a punch, pull up a chair and join us. That's right, Unleashed 101, where real talk feels like home. Find us at unleashed101.com, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and more. We look forward to seeing you. Unleashed 101 with Jeremy Hicks.
Freedom. One nation in all of human history was built on that bedrock. Ours. A republic of the people, by the people, and for the people. Self-government requires freedom, just as freedom requires an individual willingness to self-govern. Freedom has made America exceptional, but it can only last as long as you and I seek the good, as expressed by the laws of nature and nature's God. It can only last if you and I choose to act as people of character. Forging character has been the pursuit of Hillsdale College since 1844.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
First hour down. It is 7 minutes after the hour. It's 9:07 on the far left coast. Actually, Pacific time is my time in Idaho, which is kind of weird. It is 11:07 Centrale, and it is midnight 07 on the far east coast. Welcome back. Thanks, everyone, so kindly for watching live tonight on a ton of various different places. And thanks for watching also later in podcast. Tonight, we have Rowdy Rick Robinson and Amy Curtis all in the saloon here for various discussiones about tonight. Well, it's part two, essentially, of what price are we willing to pay for our freedom? Now, in the first show on Tuesday, I talked all about the surveillance state, and we spoke about education just before the break, which is wonderfully coincidental. And I didn't install this brainworm into anyone here tonight, but it was mentioned, so I have to go here. I'm going to play a video about a guy that actually gives a shit about his students. These are the results of the high bigotry of low expectations, and that, in fact, impacts people's freedom. And that impact is right on display in front of this guy's face. So people's lives were ruined because of this woke crap. There is, when they say it's woke one, there will be no cessation of woke by any of the people that are portraying that in the media right now. AOC, woke one, to which I say, okay, it's mostly bullshit, but it's entirely bullshit. It will never stop. It will never cease. And it's because of that idiot leftists were afraid to address the issues, coddling, and let's be honest, coddling black and minority students, the massive racism of low expectations, treating blacks like, unbrained cattle. Okay. It's like anybody here has said, it's Democrats and leftists who are the racists, who believe that blacks are stupid and they require special exceptions for their so-called lack of intelligence. This right now, what we're experiencing in terms of woke, this is the eye of the storm. The hurricane still surrounds us, kids. And we got into the I here by way of President Trump, but guaranteed somewhere in our relative immediate future, you're going to be out of the I again. And listen to this guy, 60 seconds of, well, let's just listen to what this guy says. It's killing him.
These kids are leaving high school and going to college, and they couldn't fill in 4 words. 4 words. I literally broke down in the middle of class. This is only day 2. And I have seniors who simply cannot read and seniors who cannot write. They can reason. They have the ability to defend their reasoning if it's talking to their homeboy, but applying that to a written text, 2 paragraphs, and they couldn't do it. Our young black men, our young brown men, our young black girls, and our young brown girls
who did that.
It's by design.
It's by design.
It wasn't Republicans. It was intentional. It wasn't, oops, we made a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't, oh, well, I guess we could have done it better. No, you did everything you could to keep blacks, minorities, etc., the people that you suspected were going to continue to vote for you in the future ad nauseum. That's what they were there for. They were there to be gotten into line, made idiots, education kept from.
It's more
them.
sinister than that. It's way more sinister than that. Nobody gets taught history anymore, so I'm just going to give everybody a quick breakdown. So, you know how we have like this whole, it used to be first grade through 12th grade thing, and then they added kindergarten, and now there's pre-K and all that stuff. We didn't used to have that. Senior year was 8th grade. Because by 8th grade, you were going into an apprenticeship program, you were going to go be a farmer, you were going to do this, you were going to do that. Guess how all of that started? The Rockefellers commissioned 3 separate studies to find out how long it typically took to indoctrinate someone. The answer they found in all 3 studies was 12 years. So the Rockefellers, with all their deep pockets, started doing all this philanthropical work because this was in the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. He wanted to make sure that there were people that were smart enough to operate his equipment, but not smart enough to try to do anything other than operate his equipment.
Or challenge
and we've been following that model ever since. And now the government's gotten a hold of it, and they have figured out how to keep people just stupid enough to pull a lever. And this is the thing that drives me crazy about the left. If you are still voting for someone who thinks you are incapable of getting a damn ID, where is the actual problem here? Because it's not them. They're telling you they think you're stupid. If you're still voting for them, then you're agreeing with them. That's not my problem. That's a you problem. That's not a me problem.
It's a ridiculous situation that began. Let's be honest. I was around in 1964. We all know what happened in 1964 when certain personnel were paid to keep fathers out of the household. Up until that point, blacks had one of the highest rates of a nuclear family in the entire United States. So in a way, it's sad that I have to couch everything, and I don't mind doing it because that's the game leftists play. All they understand is race and sex and dominance and strength. In many ways, especially now, there isn't a dime's worth of difference between the dictators in the DSA and the Democrats and Muslims from the Middle East. They either want to convert you or kill you or hold you in thrall. And the other thing that I have to address at this point, and this is so frustrating and so woefully unaddressed, that every president since the dawn of man in Kubrick's film and the monolith. Since then, no one has addressed this shit. We are nearing, look up here, kids. I'll circle this. We are nearing $40 trillion in national debt. Go to usdebtclock.org and look at it for yourself at this point. And it, as you can see, it's very active. Nothing stops. It keeps rolling along. Debt per citizen, $115,000. Debt per taxpayer, $359,000. How do you ever extricate yourself out of this? If there were ever something that is a freedom killer, is the enslavement of debt. And yet no one, no president, politicians, they hold this continuously at arm's length, and the Republicans are zero different between anyone else. There is no difference between them.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So when you graduate kids that can't read, can't write, can't do math, they're not going to care about $40 trillion worth of debt. They're going to hear, we're going to give you free health care. And yes, please vote for that, because I don't know any better. But I ran the numbers. One of my colleagues, Dimitri Bolt, kind of laid out what this Democratic Socialist plans were going to cost us. On the low end, we're looking at a $71.2 trillion tax bill over 10 years. That breaks down to, assuming 330 million Americans, $21,000 a year or $1,800 a month to pay for free shit. On the high end, we're looking at $211.6 trillion, which is $64,000 per year or $5,300 per month. But remember, if we just, as Abdul El-Sayed said, hand over a little bit of our money to the government, we get free healthcare in exchange. What they're counting on is having a generation of people who don't realize the math ain't mathin', and just sign up for this. I'm not going to assume what anybody else's income is, but let's just say at $64,000 a year, I'd pretty much have nothing left, because all of my income would be taxed to pay for my neighbor's free shit. That's how you end up getting people in the streets with weapons and torches and pitchforks.
You know,
because they may not be able to add 2 + 2, but they know when the bank account hits 0 and they can't buy food.
Well, and let's throw this into the mix. Let's be honest. What happens when the first check expected at the beginning of the month never arrives?
All you got to do is go. There was some issues, and it was during COVID, with the state of Wisconsin, the SNAP program, where SNAP payments didn't show up. And so on SNAP day, people went to Walmart, stacked up their carts with stuff. Oops, your card was declined. It was as close to being in a riot as I ever want to be. And don't get me wrong, I wasn't there because I was on SNAP. I was there because I needed groceries, and I was paying for myself. So I was able to buy my groceries. But there were a lot of really, really unhappy people. And one of my favorite pieces that I wrote when I was still at Twitchy was when Kamala Harris and Tim Walz were talking about price controls on groceries. And it was called 9 Meals Away from Anarchy. And you are literally 3 days of not eating, 3 days of missing meals away from all hell breaking loose, because people do not want to starve to death, and things will go tits up very, very quickly. So you've got about 72 hours before the shit hits the fan if those checks don't show up. And one day they're not going to.
Anybody remember, and maybe my analogy is poor on this, anyone remember the 75 movie or 76 movie, 3 Days of the Condor, with Faye Dunaway and Robert Redford,
Mhm.
and the guy with the CIA and the fedora, whose name escapes me right now.
Yeah,
But it's Cliff Robertson.
Cliff,
Cliff
thank you. Yes,
Robertson.
it was yeah.
And what distinctly I remembered, because that movie came out during the gas crisis of the 70s, of which I was around and working for the federal law enforcement at that time. And what did Cliff Robertson say to Robert Redford when Robert Redford said, I told him a story, and I went over to the New York Times here, and I gave them that story about what actually happened. And Cliff Robertson said, you have no idea what you have done, because what's going to happen when all of a sudden people can't get their oil and they can't get their bread and their cars won't run and they can't heat their homes and they can't air condition their homes? Will they care at all about how we got here? The answer is no. They'll just want us to go get it.
Mm-hmm. ...
Or they'll riot.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we are today.
Yep.
You know, in terms of freedom. Now, this is sort of a rhetorical question, but there's John Cornyn again, a Republican, you know, and who's an asshole, who, thank God, is moribund. He ain't coming back. And it's people like him that make conservatives, because I'm not a Republican, but it's people like him who make conservatives hate the GOP. Senator Cornyn, this story now came out, joins Texas Democrats and the nominee Tallarico, locals in opposition to Trump's Big Bend border projects. When you have a Republican like Cornyn, here's the story. The links will be up in the Rumble side of BZ's Saloon. So when you have someone who is in sync with one of the most bizarre oddoids in Texas, although a saving grace of his might be that he's not a muzzy, but that's all. But you've got people like Thune and Cornyn and Tillis, Tom Tillis, who despise President Trump. I don't agree with Trump, but I don't despise him. That, right, you know, they're talking about an 85-15 issue that even the Republicans cannot somehow manage to rally around. How is that humanly possible? I know the answer, but I'd like to hear you guys weigh in your thoughts about that, please.
Rick, you can go first. Hang on a second.
Yeah, I was actually about to ask you to go first. I'll be honest, I lost connection for like a minute or so and been trying to play catch up ever since. Because I was frozen on my end. I don't know what happened.
With Cornyn and Thune and Tillis, how does it happen that, for example, in this specific instance, Cornyn is agreeing with Tallarico? How does this possibly happen? You know, I think I got the answer, but
I can give you a short answer. I can give you a short answer. So this was actually one of those, you know, I think lightning struck me brain moments. I was playing a video game once. I always mispronounce it, but it's spelled Duesex, I think. And it turns out that it's one of those ones where you can go through and you pick different decision trees and different things happen. And it turns out no matter which side you pick, by the time you get to the end of the game, you realize you're fighting for the same person that's at the top. There's really no difference with that with our political system, and it hasn't been for a long time. The only difference there really is between the Democratic and the Republican Party, and this is why I was so, once Trump got there and I saw that he was, at least for a while, trying to do things differently, I actually thought that might be changing. The problem is there's really only one difference between the two parties, and that is the speed to which we get to the same destination. So the reason you're starting to see so much overlap, and now you're starting to even see it from the administration. I lost my mind the other day when they started talking about corporate buy-ins, because that's the same shit Hassan Piker's talking about with AI. Bernie Sanders wants a 50% stock buy-in handed over to the government, and now they're like, well, we don't know about 50%. Maybe we'll start with 5. No, because that's the same mistake we make every time. That's actually, I teased you guys earlier in the green room little chat that I'm working on a book, and it's how we got here, because we make the same mistakes every single time. Do you realize the Republicans have been making the same argument about taxation since 1870 something? You know, the federal government, which was new because before then it was the general government, because of the Civil War, was facing something it never faced before. So they decided to legally get into everybody's pockets, and then it expired. And then certain Democrats and even certain Republicans, kind of like the ones we're looking at today, kept coming back like the little dog coming up the spike going, hey guys, remember what it was? Remember we could just get in everybody's pockets and we didn't have to go to them and say, please sir, may we have some more? Wasn't that awesome? We should do that again. And for like 18 election cycles, they kept saying no. And then you know what they did? The Republicans, because they're like, well, this is what we'll do. So they did a corporate tax rate of some kind. I don't think it was called a corporate tax rate yet, but that's basically what it was. And so then they decided for the personal taxes, they were going to put it to a vote of the states, because they were surely, this was their thought process, I would almost guarantee you, surely the American people would not be so stupid as to permanently allow you to have you turn them over and shake their pockets and see what comes out. And then the Democrats pretty much used the same argument they use today. This is a 2% tax on the top 1% of Americans, and you're never going to feel it. The problem is you're never going to have to pay it. It's never going to affect you. The problem is that was the promise they made, but that was not part of the final amendment. And we make the same mistake every single time. They go to the left, we go just a little bit further with them. As soon as the DSA started cropping up, that's when you started hearing everybody talk about, well, maybe we need to do this and maybe we need to do that. And it's both sides. And I'm tired of it, because for like 5 seconds, I had a brief hope that maybe Trump was going to be enough of a disruptor to stop this stuff. But the problem is, for the guy who was once coined the bull in the china shop, somebody chopped his shit off. I don't know when it happened, but he ain't the bull in the china shop anymore.
Well, he's 80 years old now.
This is true too.
You start to slow down when you're 80 years old. But going back to the question about why Cornyn, et cetera, is with Tallarico, it's a very simple answer. Trump is against Tallarico, therefore we must be for him. Like I have said repeatedly in my writing at Town Hall, on my podcasts, Trump could announce a cure for cancer tomorrow, and these people would come out against it. They would go to court to block it. They would attack patients who took it. They have to. It is this, like there are like sleeper cells, like those words that triggered the Winter Soldier. Anytime President Trump says something, their brains are like, we have to do the opposite. No matter, like, Trump could come out tomorrow and say, we're going to pack the Supreme Court and watch them all lose their minds. That is like the reflexive, I have to do what Trump, the opposite of what Trump says, is so ingrained on the left and in a lot of pockets on the right.
It's like, who is the Manchurian candidate? Is there just one? Are there 50? Are there 100? 435, 535. How many are there? You know, when I went to DC and I worked for the Flibbies, I didn't have much time for sightseeing, but I can remember on the IRS building in DC, they have that funny kind of curvy sign that a lot of the federal buildings used to have. I don't know if they still have them anymore. But Oliver Wendell Holmes had a quote that was on that sign. Taxes are what we pay for a civilized society. Okay, well, if that's true, we should be the greatest, most magnificent civilized society in the history of history. I'm BZ. That's Rick Robinson and Amy Curtis. I'll be right back. Don't go away if you would, please. Thank you.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Mission log. Intrigue. I mean, let's face it, who's even counting anymore? The Lost Wanderer is officially off course, chasing rogue rocket launches, fringe science, and things that probably violate causality. If it burns fuel, bends time, or makes scientists very uncomfortable, yeah, I'm probably going to talk about it. Every other Sunday on KLRN Radio, The Lost Wanderer, because space doesn't come with a roadmap, and honestly, I wouldn't follow if it did.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Hey fellas, are you mission ready? You need to check out Mission Ready Men via Earl Big E Jackson on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central, and noon Eastern. It's a show that equips you to navigate our society's challenges from a biblical perspective with courage and conviction. Tune into Mission Ready Men as we examine our culture through the prism of biblical truths, teachings, and how to apply them in our daily lives. Prepare to step up, stand out, and step into your role as a man as ordained by God. That's Mission Ready Men, hosted by Earl Jackson on the SHR Media Network. And get mission ready.
Want to make an immediate difference in the life of a critically ill child? You have the ability to do that right now. Make a donation to Dream Makers for Life, the organization that restores dreams to seriously ill children and their families. You can sponsor a dream pack for a child, which contains a clear PVC backpack, a dry erase board adventure coloring book, a journal, and dry erase markers to inspire a critically ill child to envision a future adventure and hope. Want to become a dream maker for life yourself? Go to dreamforlife.org. That's dreamforlife.org. Help a child. Help a family. There is always hope.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Last half hour, 27 minutes left, kids. I'm not going to go into overtime. I may do a Sunday night saloon because I just got so much stuff. Oh my God. We'll wait to see. The funny thing is, tonight's about, do we have any freedoms left? If so, what are they? It seems as though the Republicans are every bit as bitter, bad, and wrong as everyone else. Certainly the Democrats, while the DSA, truly communists, are even more insane, and their representatives. It's like, but even the Republicans, and now I'm beginning to second guess this. Remember back in June of this year, okay, so Governor Kemp in Georgia said, you know what? I'm going to reject that redistricting stuff, which would give a couple of seats to the GOP. But then you have to ask yourself, all right, BZ if then equation, if you get the extra 2 seats, how else then are you going to piss that power away and cede it to somebody else? So in that matter, why should we even do that? Anybody also remember this? DeWine in Ohio vetoed the voter ID bill to, redistrict, and betrayed Ohio Republicans The power is within to do these things. And yet the Republicans consistently shoot themselves in the balls. I'm sorry, they don't have balls. I'm sorry, the foot. I meant the foot on a consistent basis. But if they were to have acquired that power at this point, what truly would they do with that? You know, frankly, I think it's a valid question. You know, I talk about at the beginning of the show, betrayal, traitors. You know, I'm not a Republican anymore. I'm not a registered Republican. I'm an independent, and I have to do the best with that as I can. And then I continue to look at who's addressing this. Anyone? Bueller? Well, I know who it isn't. It isn't any of the presidents that we have had. And so, you know, absent nuclear war, absent a civil war, and I'm not too terribly, I don't think I can be disabused into thinking there might not be one, but let's set those things aside on the shelf just for a moment. And would not one of the biggest destroyers of this nation, and thusly our freedom, be our debt? We are at $39.9 trillion in our debt. Mm-hmm. And this is an issue with which no one is addressing because no one wants to talk about. I mean, Greece spoke about this word. Germany spoke about this word. I don't remember who was PM in Greece at the time. I think it was Angela Merkel in Germany. And for a time, just a slim little bit of time, there was the A word in those two countries. Mm-hmm. Austerity. Mm-hmm. But we don't want to hear about that. We want our free shit, and we want it now.
Right.
It's my free stuff, and I want it now.
Right. Right.
But I think going to get me a house.
But before we go any further, can we back up to DeWine for a second? Because he actually gave a pretty detailed reason as to why he said no. They already have voter ID in person, and there are all kinds of security concerns about what happens with the copies of the voter IDs and everything else. Because this was specifically for mail-in balloting. And he was like, we already do voter ID in person. And honestly, if somebody's going to try hard enough to be fraudulent with mail-in voting, even they'd probably figure out a way to get a hold of somebody's copy of an ID. And if anything else, if we have a database with all these people's stuff hiding in it somewhere, it's going to make it just that much easier to find it. Mm-hmm. The upside is if the Republicans really want it, all they got to do is band together because there's enough of them to override the veto. But from just a cursory search that I did, there's some problematic language in that bill, which was the reason that DeWine said no. Because
it would have.
There's not anything that discusses the security of what we do with all of these people's ID information once we have it, because they would have to send it over and they have to do this, then have to do that. He's like, we may wind up making it easier for people to be fraudulently voting later because we don't have things set up properly to be able to do this. I mean, look, I don't live in Ohio, so it's up to them. But at the same time, you know, rushing to try to fix things is oftentimes how we make the same mistakes that I was just referencing a second ago when the Republicans went, well, surely they won't let them tip over their pockets and shake them. Yeah, they did, though. Because they bought into this is only going to hurt the rich. And that's when class warfare really got started in this country, because that's what the first time they really started looking around and going, oh, you mean you're going after those people? Cool.
Tax the rich. Then it became eat the rich.
Yeah, I really thought that was going to do better. Shrew on a screw. I really thought that was going to do better. But,
well, I knew it was a screw, but I didn't get the shrew part.
I liked it fine.
Yeah, but almost nobody saw it. I was like, really? Yeah, I actually saw somebody else had already done the image, and it was her sitting on a bolt and said "dolt on a bolt," and I'm like, nah, this has got to be done a little better. Shrew on a screw.
Based upon Elf on a Shelf. but
Mhm.
it's so eminently frustrating. I'll add something else into the mix if I can. At a point when we think that these people not only are not doing their jobs, not only are refusing to coalesce around issues that the vast bulk of the nation want to see. Now, courtesy of AI, don't know if you guys have seen this. Now, they're not much interested in working. This is from the Washington Post. And of course, you know me, I have a way to get into and past most all paywalls because I ain't paying nothing for the American media maggots, thank you very much.
Mhm.
And so I got past the paywall because I'm not going to pay for the WAPO where democracy dies in DC. Chatbots are doing the work of Congress with little oversight. So whatever it is that's occurring in DC, now they're not even interested in doing their work. The work was shuttled like SCOTUS over to their assistants. Very few of these assholes write their own bills, but now the assistants apparently cannot be bothered to write in any kind of an extensive fashion. Chatbots are doing the work from writing speeches to sorting constituent mail. It's spreading through Congress faster than the rules governing its work. But why not? Because you bitch about the open borders. Who has the power to solve that? Congress. You bitch about taxes. Who has the power to solve that? Congress. We have the people who can let me throw this out. I think I used to know the answer, but maybe you guys know something. I think it was 96, 97, right around in there under Clinton, where we had the actual last agreed upon not balanced budget, but we had an agreement from both sides of the aisle and then passed that budget instead of having all these various remediations. And we're still, am I in the ballpark in the age? Because that would mean, gee, BZ, that's like 27, 28 years since we've had both sides agree on a budget. Okay, it was vastly blown up and exploded because I like to watch shit blow up, but not that. So I think I've got the years right, or do I? Let me just wrap it up by saying, well, I think it's been a long time.
It was it was the first year that the Republicans took over in the House when Clinton was in the Senate when Clinton was in office, because that's the last time we've had what they said was a balanced budget, which is still bullshit.
Well, yeah, it's like I've said, it's kind of a mostly bullshit. Or maybe I don't know. Do I know anything? Do I know any of that? What? So 15 minutes left. I have so many. I have a literal plethora of stories that I could go into, where AOC is saying, well, this is the end of woke. Well, no, it's not the end of woke. It's the end of me admitting that I was woke in order to make sure that I get the appropriate amount of numbers and potential voters, because we saw what the Nazi from Maine did, and we watched the literally clinically insane Hong get shot down in flames by kind of a disturbing margin, and Democrats may have shot themselves in the foot behind that. And then like we were talking about, I don't know, freedom. And then you've got Healy in Maine saying that, well, here, she's a self-proclaimed Christian. Oh, let me get out of here and put Amy back. There we go. Governor Maura Healy. I'm sorry, not Maine, Massachusetts. And she promises that she's going to fight President Trump so that we can kill unborn babies up to 40 plus weeks and or up to.
Yeah, remember when they said that was something that nobody really wanted? Remember?
It was safe, legal, and rare.
Right, yeah. Pepperidge Farm remembers when even, during this whole thing, when they leaked the whole Dobbs decision thing, and all the Democrats started freaking out. Why are they so worried about people saying they want to do abortions up to birth? Nobody wants that. That's crazy. And
here we are. And this was done at the behest, and I still don't understand why the leftist womenses don't get it, but they don't. How about the racist Margaret Sanger that Hillary Clinton absolutely loves? Have any of these idiot leftist bents, mostly white idiots, read any of the quotes from Margaret Sanger?
They have, and they agree with her. They just won't say that part out loud.
But it's just a massive amount of racism.
Mm-hmm.
And yet they love the SPLC, racists themselves, paying for more racism. Here's a quote.
That's because racism was dying in America, so they had to start paying for it.
You got to light that flame back up because we need a paycheck. Damn it, we have money to make.
Yep.
So
when you eradicate the problem you were trying to.
Go ahead, Amy. Finish your thought. Sorry.
No, it's fine. So when you were trying to eradicate the problem you were trying to solve, you're going to unracism yourself out of a job. And then they realized that, and then it was, we've got to give them money. But no, the women who support abortion have seen what Margaret Sanger says, and they agree with her. They have such a low opinion. There's that meme that went around. It's the two guys, one with the blue t-shirt that says woke and one with the blue t-shirt that says leftists, and how they agree on everything. Yeah, because they think by letting Black and Hispanic women kill their unborn children, they are compassionate because these people are going to have a bad life. These babies are going to have a bad life. I've had people argue with me that it's better to abort them than maybe have her give birth to a criminal. Now, I say that, and I'm the racist. A leftist says that, and they are amazing.
They're compassionate.
Doesn't that seem awfully assumptive?
Well, yeah. So, BZ, back to the premise of the show. Can I depress everybody again for a second?
Oh, please. We're all over that.
We keep asking, do we still have freedom in this country, or what price freedom? Let me tell you the only people that are still free in America. The Islamists.
Yep.
They're the ones that have actual freedom in this country. You know how I know? DFW is installing places for them to foot wash in one of the terminals. You know how I know? There are state and local governments that are now petitioning to have Islamists in their government.
Massachusetts is one of them.
Imagine if this was a government that said, we want only Christians to apply for these positions, and what would be happening. So yeah, we're not free anymore because we're the white folk. We don't count anymore. And the funny thing is, we keep talking about the left and how they're the ones with all the racist ideas. This is another reason why Islam and the left go together so well, because Islamists are the most racist people on the planet. If you are not them, you are either going to become them, or they are going to kill you.
You will assimilate, or you will be eliminated, you infidel. And you mentioned Texas. Oddly enough, this is one of the stories that I wanted to go into. Texas of all places, going muzzy. That's intentional. Muslims realize, and they know, that if you can knock over a cowboy state like Texas, get it to bend to muzzy will, well, you can damn near domino any other state more readily. Muslim foot baths in the Dallas airport. Now, I saw the story, and for whatever reason, I went to Google and I said, tappity tap, Muslims, $300,000, Dallas DFW airport. Google said, no, that's not happening. That's not true. But Google is lying because I have hands and a keyboard. And so I went to a little further into the investigation. And what I found was on the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation, dated 7/31/26. Oh, no, BZ, this was years ago. No, $300,000 renovation alteration. You can watch this. You can read this at your leisure under Rumble, but it's right there if you just look. And Google is lying and AI is lying, and we're watching what Rick said. We're watching our freedoms just go fluttering away on little muzzy wings.
Yes.
You know, and BZ, you're being so insulting to muzzies. Dilligaff is my reply to that, because I don't. Clear language must be spoken.
And I'm going to take it a step further. I said this on Twitter. I think I may have said it on one of the podcasts. The biggest mistake George W. Bush made after 9/11 was not deporting every single Muslim from the United States of America on September 12th, 2001.
Because he could have back then the will of the people. They were ready to do that. That was really an incredibly opportune moment for precisely that.
He didn't have the will to know Islam means we can't judge them. There is not a doubt in my mind that if I had planes into the World Trade Center, well, at the time I wasn't Catholic, but the Catholics would have been and sent wherever, because we had to tolerate that.
If that had happened, they would have just nuked Vatican City and been done with it.
Well, they were washing their feet in the sink.
Yes. Yeah,
Right, exactly. No,
I said that 25 years ago. You know, I like to make the reversal inference in numerous situations. Let's say the Catholics were responsible for 9/11. The following week, I don't think you'd find any Catholic church that wasn't smoldering embers.
Yep.
Throughout not just in the U.S., not just
the world,
our affected nation, throughout the entire United States of America.
All you got to do is look at Canada, and I'm going to forget the name, but wherever there were supposed to be those mass graves at the Catholic schools, how many churches have burned in Canada over that? And that ended up being a rumor and a lie.
Yes,
that there
was
weren't mass graves.
True, and yet that occurred. Let me go back to idiot leftists and you massive idiot leftist bints who don't know anything, and that's intentional, about history. Margaret Sanger, covertly invest into not white areas, invest in ghetto abortion clinics, help to raise money for free abortions in primarily non-white areas, perhaps abortion clinic syndicates throughout North America that primarily operate in non-white areas and receive tax support should be promoted. The masses of Negroes, another quote, particularly in the South, still breed carelessly and disastrously, with the result that the increase among Negroes, even more than among whites, is from that portion of the population least intelligent and fit. Demorats are the racists. Demorats are the sexists. Have been, always will be, period, end of statement.
Yes. There is not a single lie in what you just said. And everything, every accusation.
No, it's absolutely.
And keep that in mind. Yeah. Everything they say we are is what they actually are, which is why when they call me a racist, a transphobe, a bigot.
Yeah.
Okay. Have a nice day. It really doesn't bother me.
The biggest hint that they've been the racist all along is when they took the story of Uncle Tom and made it a pejorative.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, when in fact it was a positive.
Because that was actually one of the first lines I ever really remember from the Jeffersons, and then I went to the library at school the next day and researched it because I had no idea really what he was talking about, because it was one of those, I don't remember who it was. It was like I think it was Wheezy's dad. It was like, yeah, we'd never call you an Uncle Tom because of this reason and this reason and this reason.
Mm-hmm.
And then at some point after that episode, it started changing, because then Uncle Tom became a pejorative. For those listening for the first time or that don't know the story, so the character of Uncle Tom is actually based on a real person. This person escaped slavery and fled to Canada and started an underground railroad about a decade or two before Harriet Tubman. So yeah, they took a black man escaping the plantation and made it a pejorative.
Mm-hmm.
That should have been the biggest indication that they were still the people they were claiming we were.
Yep. There is nothing that makes them angrier than when a black person gets off now the metaphorical Democrat plantation. And it's
That's why they got so pissed off over the redistricting fight. We took their voter plantations and started breaking them up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they were already in existence for quite a long time. Redistricting,
Mm-hmm.
that had already been happening to the nth degree. And then the states that were the biggest complainers knew within that they had already done as much as they possibly could. Somehow managed to eke out a few more molecules. But again, as you pointed out, all the things of which it's alleged that we're doing, Democrats and leftists have been doing infinitely longer, harder, stronger, better, worse than what we've been accused of. Did I just hear a giggity?
Well, you said longer, harder. Yeah, had to be
absolutely.
All right. Okay. Guilty. Hey, we are nearing the end of the show. So before we go, I want to make sure that we know who everyone is. And I want to do a promo. And the promo is this. If you kind of sort of maybe enjoyed this show,
boys,
I have a suggestion. And that is go over to KLRN tomorrow to watch the Weekend Update with Rick Robinson. He will be there. Oh, wait, let's see. That's on horizontal. He's there. And on vertical, he's right down there. And he is the CEO and chief bottle washer of KLRN and has this every Friday. And if you liked a semblance of this, you should go to his show. Rick, when is that show and where can it be seen?
So tomorrow is the Friday edition of the Rick Robinson Show. That is at 1 p.m. Eastern time, and then we'll be rolling straight into the Weekend News Roundup after that. Also, before we get too much further into the closing, how many times have I told you, BZ, I'm the pitcher, you are the catcher? You've got me as a bottom down here, brother, man. What's going on?
Oh, well, hang on.
I'm just playing.
Oh, no, there we go.
I think Amy's trying to come back.
My Wi-Fi is not having a good night.
Is that not better? Are you not entertained? And so, Amy Curtis, if you would, and I'll come back to Rick. Amy, is there a chance, a possibility, an infinitesimal molecule of possibility that you might be there tomorrow on the Weekend Update show?
Barring something that happens between then and now, I plan on being there.
Excelente. That is Portuguese for excellent, for those who don't know. So, Amy, we might be able to see you tomorrow. Tell us before we kick off and cack the show, where can you be found, read, social media, etc., etc., etc.
Twitter at Ranty Amy Curtis, townhall.com. Just look for my name, click. You can see all the articles I've been writing, and then go to Amazon and look for my book, Gaslight, How the Democratic Party Lost Its Mind to Radical Leftism and Abuses Voters in the Process. If you search Amy Curtis and Gaslight, it'll pop up. Order a copy. Oh, see, there's the Chaos Goblin is awake.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, he was climbing on my back before, so I had to mute and log off for a second because he needs to have his claws trimmed again, and you feel it when he climbs on you. But
And there he goes.
Yeah, he's gonna jump in my closet now. But that's where you can find me, and I'll be back here tomorrow for the weekend news roundup.
Excellent. And Rick Robinson, where can people find you? And I love this part of the show where I can't begin to keep up. It's like you must sleep sometime, or as Warren Zevon said before he passed away of mesothelioma, he said, "Well, I'll sleep when I'm dead."
Sleep is for the weak, my friend.
Sleep is overrated.
All right, so I'm not going to give the whole schedule because we'll be here till like 1 a.m. my time. But I will tell you the immediate schedule. So tomorrow, I start off as the executive producer for Jesus for Dummies. That kicks off at 9 my time. 1 p.m. in the afternoon, Rick Robinson show. That's 1 to 3. 3 p.m. Eastern time, Weekend News Roundup. 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, He Said, She Said with the lovely Aggie Rican. And then Tuesday night, we do Men Explained Poorly. For everything else, just check the schedule because there's some changes that have happened. So, yeah, but you can find me on X at RowdyRick73, and you can follow along with the network there as well at KLR Radio. And that's all I'm saying because he's already trying to get out of here.
God, such an underachiever you are. It's really sad. Someday you'll do something with yourself.
Right. Someday I will accomplish something, damn it.
Yeah. Right. Instead of all that sleep that you've been acquiring. Good Lord. Thanks to Rick Robinson. Thanks to Amy Curtis for being here tonight. Thanks to you for weighing in. And this is at the point when I say something similar to 2 hours later, we're ending the show. And with that, my favorite singers go. And so, ladies and gentlemen, boys and squirrels, children of all ages, thanks for listening to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here on Rumble, on KLRN, on the SHR Media YouTube channel, on X, on Twitch, and did I already mention the magnificently grandiose KLRN and tons of other bulbous podcast locales? I keep saying this. It's going to be the last week of probably, maybe, kind of, sort of saying promotional consideration is by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, Shure and Electro Voice microphones, Arrakis boards, the people who make my mixer, and also the Pratt & Whitney Engine Company, manufacturing dependable engines yielding thrust you can trust. Thanks tonight to Rick Robinson, to Ranty Amy Curtis, and everyone. Oh, tiaras by My Little Pony. God bless America. See? Thanks also to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team with whom I shall be consorting in less than 10 minutes. God bless, take care, be safe. Everyone.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben. Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.
And folks, remember,